course, with me, Anton NM. It's another edition again on this program. And today I'm joined by a special guest, a friend, inspirational speaker, many titles. And I'll not get into details with that. But you're welcome, Mr. Mind.
Thank you so very much. All right.
Tell me, how did the whole... Okay, explain to the viewers first, your full name. Because, you know, everybody knows Mr. Mind and the brothers and all that. But your full name, and we'll get to how you came to Mr. Mind.
Okay, to start with, I am Augustinus Ngombe. And Mr. Mind is one of the extra names that I have acquired throughout my journey in life.
Yes.
I am a certified agile leader. I am a teacher. I am a speaker. I'm an author in the area of leadership. But now, soon we want to work on the project of also publishing a book on emotional intelligence, but still on leadership and entrepreneurship.
Great.
Yes.
So how did you arrive from Augustine to Mr. Mind? What was the transformation?
It's a funny thing to tell people. Actually, you know, I didn't know why it happened and how that was made possible to happen. But while I was in grade 9, the classmates wanted to give names, having nicknames. Some were having Tupac, some were having Cristiano Ronaldo, and there were so many names out there available, and they wanted to give me a name. I said, no, wait a minute. You cannot just impose a name on me. So what you do, give me time, and I'll come back to you and tell you what my name will be. So I went back that day, and I don't know what happened throughout the night. All I can remember is the next morning I came back to them on my books written all over Mr. Mind. And from that day onwards, things were never the same. I was Mr. Mind until today.
So you just thought, okay, mind will be something that I think I can go with, or it fits you.
I am understanding it now, reading the Bible. You know, we are made in God's image. And if you are made in the image of someone and after someone's likeness, that means you possess something that is a nature which they have. And if we have the nature of God, God is omnipresent, omnipotent. He's the knower of everything, he understands. So if we are mini gods, that means we possess certain characteristics which other creatures do not have. So that, I think, we can boast to say that if we are mini gods, we can also be Mr. Mind.
That's a great one. But before you arrive at this level of illumination, tell me about your childhood background. How did you grow up? Did you grow up with both of your parents? What village, and how was your upbringing?
I was born and raised in the village, and with my parents, I grew up with my parents during childhood, but when I turned 6, I did not see my father for a longest period of time because he was working in the farms as a charcoal farm worker, cutting charcoals, and you know how they get trapped in the bush and they do not have enough money to be able to travel back. So he tried to make an attempt. He did not do that, I think, for over 10 years. And we grew up knowing our grandfather, and the father figure that we knew was church. You need to go to church and see the church elders and pastors to see the father figure. But I wouldn't say that there was anything bitter between the two parents. It's just the nature of work that he was able to get, which was not conducive for him or to enable him to be able to come home every now and then, and that led him to be trapped there for a very long time in Ojo. Yes.
I think the saying goes, a child is raised by the village. So it's kind of elders around you and men and church leaders, your uncles became kind of your father figures. Is that the case?
That is the very case. I'm a product of the societal a norm and dictation that have happened, that I was able to pay attention to what the elders were given in the council that I used to be, whether it's at church, at home, or in the community, at school. So that is where I modeled what I needed to be who I am today.
Okay. Now, to be who you are today, talking about to be who you are today.
Yes.
Is there any stage of your life that you can look back to and say, that time and that time I did face some kind of challenges that maybe other young or boys couldn't have survived? Are there challenges you encountered because of the absence of a father in your life?
Of course, it's natural to a child to always long to belong to both parents, to be guided, loved, and being taken care of by both parents. Moments where they will ask us to call the parents at school to attend to us, whether it's just a general meeting or them checking out the books and the progress. Now, each time we are told to call the parents, others will bring fathers, and unfortunately for me and my siblings, we couldn't bring our father because he was absent by then. So the only thing that we could do is we had to resort to a grandparent to be able to be the father figure whenever there was a parent meeting. So these had led one to be able to think, but how did I come to the world and then be left alone like this? There will be that longing of wanting to be with the father. And it happened to us. We are no exemption to that.
Wonderful. But I want you to point out specific in your own life that you felt, as my father was, if he was around, maybe this would have been a different case.
The case of sitting, having a talk, having a walk with the father, having to be guided, to be taught what to do and what not to do practically by someone who has led to you being born. It's also a human development to see, the relational things of how I will be able to relate to a woman once I'm at the age where I need to have a partner. So such moments were missing in life. Not to say that there was no one to be able to present it, but there was an imagination as to how better could it be if it was with the biological father.
I'm asking this because of where we are going to go. The absence of a father in a boy's life. A father is like a compass, guides a young boy, a young girl into the wilderness of life. Now, you developing into a leader, a community leader, somebody people can look up to, somebody people can listen to. The absence of your father must have created some kind of defect in some words in terms of how you're going to portray your leadership skills. So tell me, having said that, where did you pick up the model as a man and as a leader? Is there somebody in your life specifically you can remember who was there in your life and say, this is a man who is guiding me in terms of leadership?
I think we need to understand that the way development was designed by the Creator is that negative factor can be able to trigger something to grow into a positive thing, or a positive thing can be able to shape up something in order for it to become a final product which is desirable. For me, it's the negative within me that made me to seek the understanding, to ask so many questions as to how can that be corrected. Should I do the same to the next generation, whether it's my children or the children that I will be able to interact with? Like now I'm a teacher. When I stand in front of them, I need to always be reminded that if I'm to be the absent teacher, or if I'm to be the absent father, what will happen to these kids is that they will have a void in me. They may not be fortunate as I was to be able to turn out positive coming from that negative background, but I need to now ensure or ascertain those that those who are under my care to be able to experience a different thing than what I've experienced. So that had triggered me to search for information, search for understanding, and starting from the church, I think that was the right decision to make, that I needed to look for this understanding from church and not in the club or not in the bar or not somewhere else where it could be dangerous that I would have fallen a prey to those who instigate the social evil or impose social evil on children.
Okay. Now, you keep mentioning the church concept. Church, church, church. Right now, we are in an era where, to some extent, you would say the church has lost its message, has lost its value, has lost its essence because of how leaders portray themselves and all kind of manner of behavior, the love of money and broken characters, and there is no integrity and things like that. At your time, maybe it was different. At your time, how vital was a church in shaping your moral and ethic standards to who you have become?
I can say boldly say that corrupt behavior are nothing new on earth. They are as old as human beings. Nepotism is not something new that we may be boasting to say that we have discovered a new way to be able to live life. These things are as old as the life of a human being on earth. If you look at it, reading or narrating the biblical story, devil, who was second in charge with God, was corrupt to an extent that he wanted to have a coup d'etat in heaven. He wanted to overthrow God. If you look at the first children of Adam, one of them was too jealous over the younger brother and he had to kill. You look at Joseph, it happened to him that the brothers had to sell him into slavery. And the same thing that happened to the three young little Jews who were thrown into the furnace for their conviction which they had. They wanted something to be done right and never to make a human being God. But now, if you look at this, that happened so many years ago. Today, we are having these images made in church where people do not worship God anymore. They worship prophets, they worship pastors, they worship church elders. So this is not the church I'm talking about. I'm talking about the church where you go in there to get a foundational start of the Bible. How do I read Bible? How do I search for the information that will apply to my needs? This is the kind of the church setup that I'm talking about, not the church setup that made people or the follower to be robotic, where I know everything and whatever you need, you must come through me to speak to God. I was looking at the church which needed to liberate me to say, if you need anything from God, this is the way you can pray to God. This is how you search for the knowledge and wisdom in the Bible.
Very interesting of what you have just alluded to that. Now, what I'm looking at is, were they father figures in your life that you can point out, 1, 2, 3, can you say their names? Or do you have specific, at that time, I shaped your manhood to you to become a man?
Number one was my grandfather.
Your grandfather.
My grandfather was a father figure. He was not as spiritual as he may be, but he had an understanding of a human life. Who would be able to see us with my brothers and everyone who was in that extended home to be taught as to who a man is in relation to our peers, in relation to females, in relations to the community, and in relation to the broader perspective of the society.
Yes.
So that for me was foundational, that I needed to have a grandfather in order for me to have this foundation. And secondly, in the church where I was, the pastor who was there, he started his ministry when I was 2 years. So now, whenever he would come from where I think he stayed, a village 7 kilometers away from our village. So whenever he arrives there on Sunday, the first thing that he does is he comes through our homestead and pick me up and say, I want this little baby. I'm taking this young pastor to church. So he would come with a wife every Sunday to take this little baby to church. And that is, I grew up in that hands where I needed to be taken to church by this pastor. And then my mother became a Sunday school teacher. So I now had to have a foundation. My siblings, my older siblings, did not go through what I went through. But my mother was very strict with me, that I wouldn't be able to wake up and go anywhere else on Sunday.
Yeah.
She made sure that Sunday morning I am at church. Maybe because I was born a singer out of my siblings. But the fact that she was so strict that she wanted me in church, I don't know, but it have brought a man who I am today. The pastor, grandfather, and my mother being a Sunday school teacher, they have contributed to the shaping of a young man that I am today.
Wow. You have revolved over time, and we have seen you, like you said, in music, you do sing. We have seen you in motivational speaker, as a writer, as an author, as so many, as a teacher, in a government school, of course, and many other things that we can't continue to list. Above all, the greatest, you're a husband. Husband of one wife. But here's the thing. Now you have gone through that and you are people. What is your perspective to the current predicament we are in? Fatherless homes and fatherless children and broken society. Everybody is standing either to the left or to the right. There is no more village. No one cares for who. Everybody is greedy in some ways. Everybody is corrupt, be it in relationship, be it in the leadership. Most of places, it's very hard to now find integrity. What is your shift? What is your take as you have lived to this kind of point of life?
I would have wished that we talked about the book so that I express with my expertise. But nevertheless, we have become material oriented.
Okay.
We have succeeded to be able to acquire materials. There are people who are having billions. I do not know, and I do not care if that billion was worked for or this billion was stolen, but we have succeeded that now at this point, people are able to drive cars, people are able to live in the luxury houses,
Yes.
people are able to fly from one area to the other, and people are able to do business. But guess what? We have become materially rich, but we are broke in terms of relationship. A human being is a social being. A human being is a spiritual being.
Yes.
And spirits need to shape one another. Socially, we are interconnected. Now, if we grow in a community where each one is on their own, each one is an island, we become broke.
How is that possible in the world of so much social connections, Facebook, Instagram? How are we broke in terms of relationship?
We are connected in terms of a device speaking to the device, but not human speaking to the human.
Okay.
This is why we are at home with the family on a dinner table, a human being or a person, member of the family, is able to communicate very close to the person in Canada than a person or a sibling or a father or a child next to him. They are on social media, closer to the people who are on distant, but far away from people who are closer to them physically.
Okay.
This is because we have become non-relational beings through the devices that are created. Our concern is, how do people see me on the social media? How do the society see me? And we have begun to celebrate things which were not supposed to be celebrated. What do we celebrate today? If I see Tony driving a G-Wagon, I respect that person automatically because of the desire of wanting to have a G-Wagon. But we do not question to say, how did he get this G-Wagon? Did he step on the shoulders of other people? Did he step on the toes of other people? Did he undermine other people's right to these resources? We do not question that. All we want to see is that he's driving a G-Wagon. He's the only person that I can associate with, and maybe I can also get the G-Wagon. So now the danger of this is that if your desire, the drive, is just the G-Wagon or the house or the clothes that this person is wearing, you will do anything to be able to acquire them.
Now that is very sophisticated, deep saying, materialism world. Now, as we are looking at these concepts of life and we are looking at his life from the lenses, I hope you'll be able to learn something. I hope you're getting something out of his own life. Now, you have come to write a book, Leadership and Knowledge. How did you arrive at getting that and say, okay, this is me now bringing contribution to the society? Not just a critic, not just a criticizer, not just somebody who points fingers, but I put where my money, where my mouth is. I put my life on stage so that I don't just become a speaker, but I say what I do and I do what I say. How did you arrive at leadership and knowledge?
Well, an interesting question. History had shaped me.
Okay.
When you read about Africa, Africa was once enslaved. And that enslavement had led to a compromised mindset. From slavery, we never had a break. Immediately, the Western world jumped into colonialism. And that also pressed on to undermine the ability, to undermine the dignity of us as black people. And that, thousands of years of slavery and colonialism had really brainwashed us to believe that we are subhuman. There are only other people who are able to do things and not us. So our beginning to rise is not necessarily by taking over the government. Our beginning to rise is us predicating our philosophy based on our conditions and circumstances in order for us to navigate into the direction which we want to move into. And that can be done not only orally and romanticisms or those enthusiastic speeches that we'll give. We need to leave behind things which the generation which is to come are to use as a foundation.
Now, this will live beyond you. These words, printed. And there is something about book. You can say a thought, will not respect it much, but the moment it's documented, then we can have a reference. Okay. Now, this will live beyond you. If it will live beyond you, this, I might not read or any other book of you, but if this was your word, What is it? One word or a sentence I can pick up out of there. What was that line in your head when you were writing Leadership and Knowledge that somebody can say, that's it? What was that word? What was the concept that you wanted someone to know about leadership and knowledge?
I wanted us as Africans to realize that we were created by God to have dominion,
Yeah.
and not timid spirit.
Okay.
In a sense, that this corruption that we are promoting, these characters that are unruly and uncalled for, they are the one causing our downfall than other people's things which they are imposing on us. I mean, the enemy within is the only strongest enemy than the enemy outside there. If other continents
Yes.
are undermining us, then it's us who are giving them the authority to continue undermining us.
Permission.
I was having a conversation with one person who was saying, white people have done a lot, they took people into slavery. And I said, we are also having a portion in that to be blamed.
Yes.
Because there were kings who were selling people in the community,
Young people.
black kings
Yes.
and queens, selling their own people.
And it's still happening today.
And today, we may not be sold as to, they want an exchange of wine and then they want to take Tony. No. If they can exclude you from the system and frustrate you, what would be your only option? A green card.
Yes.
To go to Canada, to go to United States, to go to Germany, to go to Britain. And as you do that, you are taking yourself into slavery. Because when you go there, there will be no dignity.
Another thing is that they are selling our rights. The land, as an African, it's your right. The moment they sell the land, the minerals, they have actually sold you and your descendants.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be in a land that was yours, but you now become a foreigner. So we are still being sold, because if you're selling the minerals and the resources and the land in which the minerals are coming from, you have sold us.
Yes.
Because that is our only source of life benefit. So we are still being sold in many different directions.
Yes.
Now, we'll be closing quickly. You are a married man now, so you are a leader. Now, for those of you who do not know very well, in any culture as Africans, in any civilized world, when a man gets married, he becomes automatically titled to be a leader in a community in some ways. They may not be on his forehead, but he's expected to guide his family, his wife and his children or children to be. He has to build the legacy. Now, you are a voice to our community in terms of leadership, in terms of some views, and you stand for the human rights, and you stand for development, for growth. Beside everybody else, we close doors. One day, you come to the end of your road. What do you want your wife and your children? Let's move the society. What do you want your children and your wife to have, that this was Mastermind and this was Augustine?
And repentant hearts, changed mindsets. If I could leave money and cars, they can be sold in a year's time. But if I leave a strong mindset within them, I will be dead physically, but I will live in them. And that is the spirit I'm pushing for. So I always remind myself, in the past, people fought slavery, they became rebellious, and they freed themselves. And colonialism, they picked guns and they fought, they liberated themselves politically. At the era where I am born, we are fighting economic wars. So these wars are not only fought with the foreign powers, we are fighting with our own brothers and sisters now. Those who are corrupt, those who are changing systems to fit their nepotism movement, who want to seclude certain individuals, those who want to promote lawlessness. So what we are going to do is we need to promote rebellious to such corrupt movements, and then be able to create movements that promotes lawful society. And you are doing that. You know, you are not looking at the favor, you are not looking at the trend, who is famous who is seen on the TV all the time, who is the newspaper talking about, who is having more views on Facebook or YouTube. You are picking people whom you think are having certain philosophy, certain belief that are good enough to our society. Imagine if the HR systems will be able to change within the whole country, then our performance management system will rise, then our production will rise. Everything, economically, politically, everything will start moving in the right direction. And this is the spirit which I want to leave behind. I need to be remembered by small contribution that I made, which enabled people to move in the right direction.
There you have it from Mr. Mind, Mr. Augustine. And as you have heard for yourself, it's never too late. You might be going through some challenges in your background, your this and that. You can start from where you are with what you have. Be the best you can be. Push yourself. It doesn't matter as long as you do it right. You do it with an integrity, with honest, and whatever it is that you do, bring positive contribution to your society, to your family, and to those around you. Until then, this is the power of purpose. We know that all things work together for good. Until then,